Welcome to the At Simpin' Ain't Easy podcast, where we dive into the heart of the personal recovery, politics, relationships, and business with unfiltered conversations and fresh perspectives. I'm Vince, your host, and we are passionate about unpacking the ideas that shape our lives and drive our world forward. In each episode, we'll explore what matters most, challenge assumptions, and spark meaningful dialogue. Buckle up. This is where curiosity meets clarity. So, on today's episode, it's the coach with the most, Marisa Azevedo, or if I say it in Italian, Marisa Azevedo.
There you go. Perfecto.
Welcome to the podcast. We're finally here.
We're here.
How are you
here.
doing?
Thank you. Good. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited to have this convo with you.
So who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? Wow. Okay. Well,
That's a good question.
Let's not get too deep right away. Who am I? Well, I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I have 3 kids. I'm a coach. I'm a relationship coach. I'm a writer. Goodness, I'm all the things. That I don't know how deep you want to get on that.
Well, we're going to get pretty deep. So I got a pretty good list if we get to all the questions or whatever. And I also, again, I want to be conscious of your time too, because this is the weekend and I'm sure you got some stuff you want to take care of as well too. Right. So
sounds good.
But so you're a life coach, you wrote a book. How did you get started as a life coach? Like what were the events that kind of triggered you to get into writing a book and starting to coach?
So to get to that question, I'd have to go back to my divorce, which was in 2012. And so you and I have, so for those of you watching this, Vince, which I go by Enzo. So
that's all right. You can use that nickname. No problem.
It sounds weird for me to say Vincenzo. So we go way back, right? From childhood. We both grew up in Italian backgrounds, Italian families, first generation American here. And so I went through a pretty high conflict divorce and it began in 2012. And so, I was with my husband at the time. We were together for 19 years. So long time. We were childhood sweethearts since I was 17. He was 16. Fast forward 19 years together. We had the perfect, quote unquote, perfect life, 2 children. We built a house together. Our families knew each other from childhood. So both come from Italian families. And I think what happened is I was in my about mid to late 30s at that point. And I think you kind of hit this place where you're just like, you have this checklist life and you're like, okay, like I've done all these things, right? I have all check good guy, check education, graduated, business degree, all the things, motherhood, built a house, travel, great friends. And it's just like, why am I so empty? Why am I so empty inside? Like, why? It felt like living in a prison. And it's interesting because I never vocalized that. I never said anything because in our culture, you don't say anything. Like you don't talk mal about your partner, right? You just don't let the cat out of the bag.
You don't let secrets out. Yeah, not at all.
You shove that down and you put a smile on and you just pretend.
You bury that shit.
You learn how to self-betray and abandon yourself. And so it was 2012 when I was just like, I hit that place and I just couldn't do it anymore. I had a dark night of the soul where
I read about that. That was really powerful words right there.
Yeah, it's just like a reckoning. Like the ego has nowhere left to go and it's done running in circles and you hit a wall and you're just like, I can't do this. Like I don't. It was this night where he was still my husband at the time and 2 kids, they were out of the house and I was at home and it was just like one of those nights. And the whole year prior was just dark, a lot of darkness, a lot of suppression. Like I didn't want to look at that. I didn't want to look what I knew was probably about to come. And it was just that night where everything came crumbling down. And it was just like a full blown identity crisis of like, I don't know who I am. Why am I here? What do I even like? Who's Marisa? Who was I before all this? Like, how did I walk so far outside of myself? So it was that ultimately led to me asking for a divorce.
Yeah. See, you mentioned something in that, and well, it led to a divorce and then eventually getting in, and we're going to get more into like what you do and we're going to talk about all of that. But you mentioned something really unique. You said checking the boxes. Now, in the book, I never mentioned like checking the boxes, like, as, like using those words for lack of, I just never used the term checking boxes. However, I did use or use the term like, gosh, how do I want to phrase it? Because I can't even remember like how exactly I put it. But basically, fulfilling somebody else's wishes or somebody else's hopes, or
Yeah.
trying to change myself to accommodate someone else, and develop my life around their ideas. Again, same thing. Being educated, getting married, and buying a house and a mortgage and a car, and trying to fulfill myself by doing all of this, and then but none of it seemed fulfilling at all. So
Yeah.
you brought that up, and that really reminded me of that usually, when we're living for somebody else, you fall into this trap. It's like, who the am I?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's,
Well, yeah.
oh, I was
You
gonna
grow up
go.
in this oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, 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 please.
I think your family is probably very similar where we weren't culturally like these weren't the conversations we were having. Like we weren't it was this is what we need to be. And mind you, I've done like, this is over 10 years ago, right? So I've had a lot of time to process how did I get there? What happened? Like where, like, let's look at the family dynamics because I'm very interested in the psychology of all of it. You have to understand that the dynamics were our parents, first generation, right? This it could be a lot of people who live here in the US right now. They
Absolutely. And
they
it doesn't
left their
necessarily have to be
homeland, right?
Italian. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Input any, right? And it
Right.
doesn't even have to be one generation removed. We are
Exactly.
only one generation removed, but we are the product of the kids that of the parents that came here to live the American dream, right? Leaving their homelands, probably scared shitless, didn't have a penny to their name. I mean, my
Right.
dad left at 15 years old, went up north to work, left his hometown, never went back, and then came here directly, married my mom. He didn't have nothing. Like
Right.
my mom came here when she was younger, but they had nothing. So in their world, it was like, you need to have all these things to be successful, right? But, and so they sort of, we bought into that programming of, okay, this is success, right? Which is really probably safety, not
Right.
success. And then you have to understand being a woman has another layer of elements to that, right? Like in our culture, having a husband is the safe
Yeah.
choice, right?
Right.
It's what you
Exactly.
it's what's expected. So
Like the
checklist.
trappings of like familial obligations, right? It's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
what role are you going to serve in your family? Well, the man does this, the woman does that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. But when you have one
You
foot
don't
in the
question it.
right, exactly. And but how do we know what to compare it to until we start to grow up and say, wait a minute, this doesn't seem like it's working for me. I got one foot in the old school, and then, one foot in the new school, and I feel like I'm shitting all over myself. It's like,
Well, we're the generation that's redefining what success is, right? For them, success was the American dream, money, house, safety, right? Now we're the next generation. It's like, okay, thank you. You accomplished that. We're safe. We're good, right? We had a roof over our head. Wonderful.
right,
But what about the emotional aspect, right? The emotional needs, and you talk a lot about this in your book. Those were the needs, because other people could be like, what are you complaining about? You had everything. Like, why are you complaining? Like, you had the perfect life. And it was just like, what about the emotional component? What about the fact that I didn't have a signature, a
uh,
fingerprint in
yeah.
my life? What about the fact that I thought I felt like a ghost surrounded by all these people, all this family, but I felt like nobody saw me and nor did I see myself.
I love having this comment because, like, you're hitting on all my points. Because you had even mentioned that in your book, right? In your section of your book, because I did read that, and I was just like, yeah, being alone in a room full of people. Like, you're like literally going down my list. I know you haven't seen my list. We're not
I
scripting
haven't
this,
seen your list.
but it's like, yeah, but it's like you're just like hitting everything, and I'm just like, wow, dude, this is totally natural. But yeah,
We're
but
on the same.
Right, we're on the same wavelength.
Same wavelength.
But please continue. You were saying, like you felt like a ghost, like you didn't exist, right?
Yeah, and that's when I really hit, like, rock bottom, like, I never knew what depression was until I started feeling like I was just sort of floating through life, like, not grounded, not rooted. Like, when I say not rooted, like, rooted means, like, you stand firm in knowing who you are, right? Your
Yeah.
identity, like, who are you? Why are you here? Like, what like, and unfortunately, when you have these models of this external way of living, right? This is what you need to be versus going inside. Like in my reality, that was never a conversation. Like, I don't know,
Right.
like, who are you? Like, what are you interested in? It wasn't like this, there wasn't any cultivation of free thought of like, not how I am with my children. I have 3 kids, and with them, it's
Mhm.
like, I don't know why the hell you're here. Like, why are you here? Like these are like I turn it back on them to get them to be like find that within, right? So in the culture that we lived in this family dynamic, it was a very external way of living. It's in the Italian culture, it's very prominent to I don't know if you've ever heard of la bella figura, but it means beautiful image. And so that's really huge in the Italian culture because it means what are people going to think of us? So when you live a life based on what others think or what's acceptable
Right.
to others, who are you living life for?
Right.
Someone
You're living
else.
for somebody else's vision. And that's I
Right.
think that comes full circle to what we were saying a little bit earlier about those familial trappings and obligations. It's like we need to present ourselves in this because and even in ACA in one of the other recovery programs, you don't tell anybody your secrets, you stuff everything down. We talked about this earlier in the conversation, but it's like it's all of those things that you just don't discuss, and it's like, and what ends up happening is it continues to compound. At least in my life, it compounded, and it ended up, where it's like I started to really question like my life. And we could get into the younger experiences that I had experienced, but like later in life, after 30 years of being in and out of recovery and going to many life coaches and and expressing like just trying to figure out like working with anger management, going and working through PTSD, and all of these issues that I had that had just been just this culmination of stuff. I'm not playing the victim role in any other thing, but it did get to a point where that nihilism started to kick in and I started to question what was my purpose. And then
Mm,
once those questions started to kick in, it was like those suicidal tendencies really just
mm,
like, and I thought I dealt with that shit 30 years earlier. So at 50 something years old, at that point in time, before I wrote the book, I was like, fuck, why are these feelings coming back? What's going on? Right now, of course, I was also involving myself in a lot of questionable behavior too. So it was like, I
mm.
mean, I was drowning all of my hurt. And
Yeah.
it wasn't even hurt that was generated from familial trappings, but falling into those trappings of like being married and divorced, getting
Mm.
into a toxic relationship and then trying to get out of that and not realizing who I was. And you mentioned something earlier too, which is like hit right on the self-betrayal, constantly like bending the knee and constantly acquiescing to somebody else's will or somebody else's desire and ignoring everything about me and trying to learn how to establish those boundaries again. Man, what it was a fucking kick in the teeth, you
Yeah,
know?
because you ultimately we want to be loved, right? We want to be loved, but when our truth is not in alignment with what other people think we should be, we learn how to the brain is wired for survival. And this is so I'll tell you an example because I think story or examples are very like some people are very visual and they see themselves in stories. So I was in a ceremony. I've done plant medicine. I've had ceremony, and I was shown that what I was
Before,
doing.
okay, for so those of us who are a neophyte like I am, what is a plat ceremony? Did you just,
Plant medicine.
plant
Plant
medicine? There you
medicine.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with ayahuasca. I've done
Ooh,
sat with
I've heard about
ayahuasca.
Joe Rogan talks about that shit all the
Yeah.
time.
So this is I've sat in a few plant medicine ceremonies with amazing, beautiful people that are very healing, beautiful healers that I've developed a relationship with. And I see if you're somebody like me, and plant medicine is not for everybody. I'm not here promoting plant medicine. It is absolutely, some people should not do plant medicine. So I'm not trying to sell
So
plant
consult
medicine.
your doctor.
Yeah, like,
Consult your doctor and your therapist before, embarking
yeah,
on any of this stuff.
consult yourself,
Right.
like
These are
plant
our own
medicine.
adventures that we're sharing.
These are our own adventures, like somebody like me who was so in their ego, like, and I don't mean this in this narcissistic type of way, but so like living outside of themselves, so fractured, so fractured. And, when I got to the place where I did a lot of psychological work, I did my own therapist, my own coaches, counselors, you name it, retreats. I mean, I've been on this journey since 2012, since that dark night of the soul. So I got to a point where I really wanted to connect. My intention was to connect actually with the earth more. Like I just felt very disconnected, basically disconnected to myself still, right? So I in this plant medicine ceremony, I'm fast forward. What happened was, excuse me, I was shown that I was constantly leaking energy out of my body. And because I was always worried, like I was shown literally, like, just imagine your body being a lighthouse right now, and the lighthouse was projecting light out and leaking, just leaking out of the lighthouse, right? To save other people. And I saw myself wanting to go towards another group and be like, "Hey, are you guys okay? Are you okay?"
Right.
And instead of the medicine saying, stay in your own body and your own experience. It is not your job or responsibility to save other people. Meanwhile, you're leaking out energy, right? So I needed that visual. I needed to see it to be
Right.
like, holy shit, like, okay, why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? And where else am I doing this? And I didn't realize it was a trauma response. It was a trauma response from childhood of doing this with a parent, right? Let's say you have a high conflict parent, right? Or
Mhm.
let's say you live in a volatile family where you don't know if you're going to get Jekyll or Hyde, or I
Right.
don't know, right? So now you become this, if you're empathic, you absorb this, right? And then you pick up, it's my responsibility to make sure they're safe, because if they're not safe, I'm not
I'm
safe.
not safe. Yep.
Right.
I know
So
exactly what you're
right,
talking about.
codependency. So now my safety in the world is dependent on everybody else around me, everyone. So
Yeah.
if this person is struggling, I have to fix them so that I can feel safe in my body. And it was a very, very powerful experience, because you don't just do this in your family, you do it everywhere. Right?
Everywhere.
You do it everywhere. So you're walking around feeling totally unsafe in the world unless everyone's okay. Imagine how exhausting that is to have to manage everybody's expectations. So this is what was going on in the family, right?
Right. So,
We
okay.
don't we
So,
don't know that.
the thing is okay, now my journey obviously was different, but in your case, like when you came to that realization, right? Because I'm a fixer. I call it my fixer. I'm the fixer. I'm the knight in rusting armor. I got to go in and fucking rescue be Captain Save a Ho. It's like, and it's
That's
like,
awesome.
it's just a realization, and my Vinceism. So it's like, but the thing is like I always put somebody else before me. So the thing is that journey for me to try to get out of that tendency, and I'll get into it a little bit more, and I get into it into the book on, what helped me in recovery and getting closer to the spiritual element for me kind of helped. For you, how did that transformation start? Like, I mean, because it's like once you make that realization, it's like, holy shit, or like, where do I go from here? Because at this point, you make a realization, but you don't feel like this is amazing. Actually, for me, in my experience, I felt even worse. Because it's like I was really disappointed in myself. How did you go from that point to like where you're at now?
So the point of not needing to fix or save anyone,
Right, right.
that is
Like
not
that
easy,
journey.
because you're going against your body, right? This is where you have to really start building a relationship with your body, because that showed me that I lived many years detached and disconnected from my body, right? So the source of it, you have to go to the source, and that's cultivating a relationship with your body, right? Not the mind. The mind is going to be like, oh, you need to go save these people, right? That's the mind. That's programming,
That's the
right?
con artist. Yeah.
That's not going to stop though, because that kept you alive.
Mm-hmm.
It
Your
was
safety
it's a brilliant,
mechanisms.
right?
Yeah.
The mind is brilliant because if without that you wouldn't be here. So
Right.
without that, but you have to be able to detach and bypass. It's not that the mind is bad. Like you need to learn. Like, is my mind trying to sabotage me? The body doesn't lie. The body, there is no like thoughts in the body. The body it knows how it feels, right? And so when this is a practice, is not something that happened very quickly for me, because of course right away you're like, the minute you start setting boundaries, or the minute you don't entangle in other people's experiences, meaning you don't save them. Are you okay with this person having their own experience without you feeling you need to save them? Because if you're getting into this entanglement of needing to save them, that you need to step back and have a conversation with that. Let's call it the inner child, right? The inner child in you that doesn't feel safe. The inner child thinks they need to save this person, and the conversation needs to be had with that little inner child who went neglected, abandoned, betrayed, right?
Right.
This little inner child, you shoved a sock down their mouth and said, "Shut the hell up. I need to go over here and save this." And they got neglected, right? You just left them
Yeah.
out high to dry. And so the relationship that we need to have, which is what I do in coaching, is learning how to have the relationship that you need to have with yourself. This is what I realized on that dark night of the soul, is I never cultivated a relationship with self. Who is self? Who
Right.
was that?
Well,
Who
we didn't
was
have
that?
our own identity. We lived through other people.
Right.
So there's a concept that you were talking about, like, it's like, you had mentioned, am I going to be okay separating myself from this other individual? In Al-Anon, which is another program, recovery program that I'm involved with, in Al-Anon, we call that detaching with love. Unfortunately, though, because my ego, we talked about ego, right? It's like, fuck, if you're not okay, it's like, how do I even begin to do that, right? And so in the program, we teach, or we suggest, we don't make any, recommendations, or there's no shoulds, so to speak, but we suggest that maybe you need to start to learn how to take care of yourself. And
Yeah.
so I started on my journey of repair, is I went back to, all right, what were the things that were healthy in my life back in the day, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and the things that I liked doing. And that started with like physical activity, and for me it manifested its way in cycling. I'm not like this, Lance Armstrong thing, but I like to get on my bike, both mountain bikes and cycling. And that was the beginning. And during that time, during that time, I started smoking again too, because I had quit for quite a while. I started smoking, and every time I got on the, like I smoked the night before or went drinking or whatever, and I pushed myself to get back on my bike, and every time I felt like shit being on my bike, I was like disciplining myself and saying, "This is what you get. You feel like shit this morning because you fucking smoked and got fucked up last night." And so, yeah, and so I mean,
Whose voice was that?
that was probably my dad's voice, because he was the
That was a
disciplinarian.
disciplinary.
He was the disciplinarian. However, though, I mean, and quite honestly, like, and we can get into this too in regards to our youth today. I mean, there is a level of discipline that we require, right? And it's like, and I also learned a little bit about discipline in the military as well, right? It's like, no, you got a job to do, right? If you went out partying last night and you got to be in formation at 04:30 in the morning, it's like, I don't, your drill sergeant, your first sergeant, your company commander don't give a fuck if you were drinking. You better
Yeah.
be up in fucking
Yeah.
formation.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so a little bit of that too, right? And
Yeah.
so was it ego? No, I don't think necessarily it was ego. It's just more so like, look, if you're gonna break these, if you're gonna break these bad habits and replace them with good habits, your body and your mind is gonna realize that they conflict with each other.
Mm.
And so for me, myself, I think that was just kind of my way of saying, like, no, you don't get an out. I mean, because I played the
Yeah.
victim really well.
Yeah.
And we'll get
Yeah.
into that. Oh, yeah, for sure. But I played the victim really well, and it's like, oh, I don't feel good. My ass hurts. It's like, no, no, you got to keep going. And I think that's the challenge. Getting back to what we're saying full circle, it's like, how do you separate yourself and try to take care of yourself, even when you don't want to take care of yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, discipline, yeah, definitely. There is, I think we need discipline is healthy. I think what we need to remove is the judgment part of it, like the self-judgment, right? There is no right or wrong. It's a choice. It's a choice you make that has a consequence, right? And I don't even like saying that word consequence because it just sounds negative or bad.
There's a
But
toll to
it's
pay.
right. There is, you're right. It leads to something else. And it's like, you get to decide, do I
Right.
want this outcome or this outcome? That's on you, right? There is no judgment because maybe in that moment you needed that. Maybe you needed that experience. Maybe you needed to feel like shit and there's nothing wrong with that. You felt like shit. It was information that showed you, hey, do you want to do, it's feedback. Do I want to do this next time? I think it's that judgment that we're always so hard on ourselves that we have to toe the line and walk this perfect path. And especially in the military, right? It's like, you got to
Yeah.
toe the line. Like if you don't,
Absolutely.
shit's
Yeah.
going to happen, right? It's
There's
not
going to
going to
be
be
shit
good.
to pay.
Right.
Exactly. And
So
so,
it's,
but that's funny because you just meant to, and I don't know if it mentioned it or if I was just, but it's guilt and shame, the judgment, right? Separating ourselves from the judgment, right? Because when we do put judgment in there, it's like we're putting a line in there, and then, but we're feeling the guilt and shame. In my case, I wasn't feeling guilt and shame. I was allowing my body to feel the pain of my choices the night before. Right.
mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
eventually when I started to get into the more spiritual aspect of it, of just like dumping all the shit, right? Cause I never dealt with, at that point in time, I never dealt with the divorce. I got out of the
Mm.
divorce and went right into the dating apps and just made a big whore out of myself. I can laugh about it now but that's exactly what I did.
That's okay.
So, however, like the guilt and shame started to build up after that. And I wrote a lot about that in the book about guilt and shame and then
Yeah.
trying not to live in that victimhood mindset.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and try not to judge myself. And like you had mentioned earlier, using that as data is like, all right, well, maybe that wasn't the right choice to make.
Right. Right. Well, and so in my book, I talk a little bit about that download that happened in 2012. And so, women, especially like women, and I asked for a divorce. I'm the one who asked for the divorce. In an Italian family, women don't
That
ask for
doesn't
a
have, yeah.
divorce. You just, if I don't care how bad your situation is, you stay, you shut the hell up and you figure it out, right? And if
Mhm.
you decide to get out, that road, right? What does that road look like for women like me that just ask for a divorce? You're basically gonna be ready to walk through your own crucifixion, right? There's gonna be
Yeah.
people out the other side that are just ready to hang you. The witch hunt. It was basically the witch hunt, right? And so there was these parts of me like you that were struggling of like, oh my god, like what is this gonna look like, right? What is this gonna and I'm talking about my own family that couldn't support my
Yeah.
parents, my siblings, like people I love, right? It's like the village. The village is gonna turn their back on you. And what does that equal? That equals death, right? What
Yeah.
happens to somebody who leaves their village, comes,
You're
they
extradited
disown,
from the pack, right? Yeah,
you're
exactly.
dead,
Yeah.
right? You're dead.
Yeah.
So this is your survival. So, consciously, I was just like, I don't know, like, how am I going to do this? So a lot of guilt and shame. And then these voices of like, who the hell do you think you are? No good mother leaves their children's father. Like basically, you're a piece of shit. Like, what are people going
Yeah.
to think about you? So on that night, right? On that dark night, these were the voices that were coming in my head. And so fast forward, the next day is what you read you read a little bit. I don't talk a lot about, it took me a really long time to process that experience. Even when I wrote the book, I still wasn't fully out the other side.
Right.
When you have like a divine download, which is what happened the day after that dark night, your mind wants to see it logically. Like if anyone's ever had a divine experience or a telepathic experience or whatever, you think the mind is trying to comprehend, right? This divine experience, which you don't have any language for. It's hard to even share because it's like it waters it down and it distorts everything. And
Yeah.
it's
Right.
taken me years because I thought it was a logical thing, right? I thought this is what I was shown and this is what I need to do, this and that and the other. But it was 5 years later, I realized, oh my God, like none of it was logical. It was giving me some sort of roadmap that was it was trying to process in my mind what Marisa language. In
Right.
Marisa language, this is what it looks like. But if you took that literally, you would be like, I'm confused. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So this is something that I will eventually be talking about when I come out with my memoir, and I will, you know, I feel like I'm still moving through a lot of that because
Mhm.
there's a lot there. But one of the messages that I talk about in this book, Owning Your Choices, is about guilt and shame, because I was carrying a lot of guilt and shame. And one of the messages that came through telepathically during this download, right? I call it God, source, whatever, universal energy that came pouring through me the day after my dark night while I was blow drying my hair in my closet. The most mundane thing I could be doing, right? I wasn't with plant medicine or any
Yeah.
psychedelics. I was
Right.
just blow drying my hair, and then all of a sudden I felt like this download come in, and it sort of felt like I got plugged into a computer, and then it was just like almost like I was having a upload of, let's call it programs, let's call it a DNA activation. I don't know.
Right.
There was no voice to that. But what I felt something being removed. It was almost like a hand going in, and it just imagine it taking something out, right? And I still get chills to this day when I say this. The message that came through that was loud and clear, among other things I was shown. But the message that
Right.
came through was, you cannot do what I need you to do if you continue to carry what isn't yours. And what's not yours is guilt or shame. These are toxic human emotions that we give to ourselves. They do not come from a higher power. These are Guilt and shame has been weaponized. It's the weapon of choice, right? We don't need guns
Right.
anymore. We don't need to
Manipulation.
hang
Yeah.
people, right? We
Yeah.
could just
Yeah.
guilt and shame. And guess what? Marisa will stay in her very unfulfilling marriage through guilt and shame. Why? Because it works. It
Right.
works, right?
Yeah.
I think some people rather be abused than to be psychologically manipulated. I mean,
Right.
that's a harsh statement to say, but it toys with your being, right? And you don't even know it's happening. There's no visual for it. And so what got removed was that. Like, let's take that out. That's getting in the way of you doing what you came here to do. It's useless.
The guilt and shame. No, I completely agree with that. In my own experience, same thing. I was kind of ostracized from the family because there was some tension between, just familial tension. And for me, it was just like, okay. And then after the divorce, so I ended up attaching to another family right through the
Mm,
marriage.
mm,
And
mm.
so once I was attached, so I essentially in a span of 5 years, I was ostracized from two different families. And
Wow.
that's when the toilet spiral started, right? And it's just like, so I started again, I just went back to like old habits and old behavior from back in the day: sex, nicotine, eating way too much, gaining a heck of a lot of weight, self-loathing, because even your own feelings about yourself, there's like this ego element in that as well, because it's like, all right, I know I'm a piece of shit. I can't keep a fucking family together. So you know what? Fuck it. What's it worth, right? And then obviously the sex and everything was all about a momentary dopamine hit. All of those addictions, right? All totally temporary dopamine hits just so that I couldn't have to deal with myself
Yeah.
until, again, 5 years later. Let's see, by that time I was probably 3 years into the divorce. Let's see, 2018. Yeah. So I was probably about 3 or 4 years after the divorce, had purchased my ex-girlfriend's house so that she could move the fuck out. The fuck are you thinking, right? Just doing all kinds of bad choices and decisions, right?
Hey, you
Stupid
got the book
shit.
title out of it, Symphony.
Exactly, right? And it's like, son of a bitch, right? And it's like, and no, 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 dude, all these fucking New York Italians right now are listening and watching this thing, and they're like, you're a fucking douchebag, you're an asshole. What the fuck kind of wop are you? It's like, fucking, you would never let
Yeah.
that happen. Hey, you know what? When you're fucking lost in your own shit, you do stupid shit. And believe
Those
me,
people
man,
saying that
I
are
did
not wanting
stupid
to
shit.
they're not wanting to call themselves out, because
Right,
we
exactly.
all do that. Those are the survival mechanisms you had that we all
Right.
had. I mean, I can relate to that. Food,
Mhm.
right? Binge eating. Why? Because you want to check out of the body, right? It's a
Right.
quick dopamine hit to, let me just check out, numb out, whatever language you want to use, check out, disconnect from the self. too painful in here, so let me just go out here, right? And then we these are everyone has these strategies until you start learning how to cultivate a relationship with the body, right? Because this is all we know. This is what we know for survival. We weren't given tools unless you had enlightened parents as
Right.
children, right? Like most of us did not.
Right, exactly. And it's to no fault of their own. It's not like I'm
No.
casting shade on my parents or your parents or any like the thing is like our generation and I wrote a little bit about it's like most of us were all immigrants that had come in here, at least you know, who are first gen in my class, a lot of them were first gen, you know, from
Yeah.
Latin America and Mexico and
Yeah.
all that other, you know, first gen Americans and it's like the same thing. We had cultural things that just didn't really quite fit, you know, and it was just like you got to be hard, you got to be, you know, and all this other stuff. And in a way, for a man, like now you spoke a little bit from a man's perspective, and it's like, yeah, I agree with Jordan Peterson's idea of like you need to be an absolute fucking monster, right? But you need to be able to learn to control it and
Mm,
learn to be able to master it, right? There's a key element in that because it's like, yeah, we can, they talk about toxic masculinity, and I'm getting a
mm,
little off topic, but they talk about, and then the thing is I never considered masculinity as being toxic. I
mm,
considered it kind of like amoral, kind of like a dollar bill, right? It's like, well, you could use a dollar, you know, like some of these fucking geniuses like the Soroses and the Bill Gates to fucking take their money and do stupid shit with fucking scientific experiments and all of this other shit. Or you could take that dollar and do some good for it and actually really
mm,
help people. Right. So, and masculinity is just exactly that, you know,
mm.
because it's like if you got a guy, you know, who's using his strength and his thing to beat a woman or beat ups on somebody, yeah, that's toxic masculinity. But at the same time, that, you know, if you're in a dark alley and you're with your old man
Yeah.
and, you know, and somebody accosts you or tries to take you out, you're going to want that man's toxic masculinity, quote
Right, right.
unquote.
And
Right.
not
So
even
it's
say
like
toxic, right?
his
Like it's just
masculinity, just
right.
general, right? It's
Right.
like you're going to
Right.
want him to be able to protect you. Right.
Yeah, men
That's
are wired for protection. They're wired for providing and protecting.
so
They're
coming, so
hardwired.
coming,
Yeah.
So coming back, yeah, exactly. So coming back full circle, it's like when you deny that and coming back to what I was saying about like being, you know, it's like I completely lost myself. I completely lost my masculinity. I completely, you know,
Mm,
but I also, you know, and again, I don't blame or cast shade on my parents or anybody outside. As a matter of fact, I took complete ownership of all of it, right? Regardless of what was going on in the thing, it was those choices that I had made and
yeah.
and after making those choices, I received data, but I didn't know how to process that. Like the
Mm,
computer wasn't working. I didn't know how to process it. And so
yeah.
I kept repeating those mistakes over and over again until I started to, all
Saw
right,
the
maybe
pattern.
I need to go to fucking anger management. I need to fucking figure out what's going on with this PTSD. I need to figure out like how to actually start building relationships with people outside of myself. And I don't mean by like, you know, rescuing them and take, you know, that
Yeah.
type of thing. And it was just like, and then developing a relationship with myself. So it was just
Yeah.
like this whole thing. And, you know, the simping ain't easy. You mentioned it. I mentioned it too. I like mentioning it because
But
it's a good book. I mean, it's like every time somebody reads it, it's a fifth step. But anyways, I
I
digress. I'm
love
going
it.
sideways. But it's like so I'm sitting here and you know, I wrote the book and I got it all off my chest. And but I took
Mm,
complete ownership of all of it, you know. And that kind of leads me again, this is like at point by point that victimhood mentality because I've played the fucking victim, you know. I loved playing that fucking role because I offset all of my responsibility and the choices that I made on somebody else. If the
mm.
world was just working my way, then fucking, you know, then, you know, but when you come to that point where it's like, and we talked about survival mechanisms, right? And this is where the suicidal tendencies really started to bother me was because the fact that, you know, the if you're in nature, right, and you're in the natural world, your whole being, right, if you're a dog or a cat or whatever, your whole being and your instincts are all about survival. Humans are the only ones that are sit there and negotiate their fucking own survival,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So when I
Maybe we need
started
nature
to when I
more.
st I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said maybe we need to go into nature more to
Right,
learn.
exactly. And it's like, so when those feelings of suicidal tendencies started coming in, you know, it was like, all right, who do I blame now?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where that victimhood came in. So
Yeah.
There was somebody that my buddy Chris had mentioned, Guy Hendricks, I think is his name.
Mm.
Whatever, we
I
could look
never
him
heard
up
him.
later.
Yeah.
But he said the victim mindset is basically like if people are in an argument, it's two people competing for the bigger victim, being the bigger victim,
True,
right?
right?
So
We're
it's like
so yeah.
so, so I was
And we all
constantly in.
do it.
Yeah, for sure, right? So,
Yeah.
was any of that like, I mean, I know I went off on a complete tangent regarding victimhood
No
and
worries.
trying to, and regarding, our parents and trying to blame them and all that stuff, but they didn't have the tools, right? So I
Yeah,
had to go
yeah.
out and seek the tools, I guess is what the point was I was trying to get at. How did you start? I mean, did you have that feeling of victimhood like, fuck these
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
It's all their
Oh.
fucking fault.
Oh, oh my, did I have that? Yeah, that's an understatement. I mean, when
We're in
you
good
live
company.
life, I mean, I already gave the clues to that because I lived
Right.
a life outside of myself. So when you live a life outside of yourself, everybody is responsible for your life, right? It's everyone told me to live this way, so it's their fault because they're the one who gave, I did what they wanted me to do, so it's their fault, right? We never take
Right.
responsibility. So absolutely, when I got to even after my divorce, I mean, it was years, when you go through a rupture like that, right? An awakening, a rupture, whatever language, it's easier to be like it's their fault. They're a narcissist, they're high conflict, they're this, right? They're controlling. And it's giving your power away to all these other people and saying that you have no control over your life, right? Your life is now in the hands of all of these people. And I went on a journey with the victim. Like I went on a full circle where I sort of, and I use language in like ceremony, like being in ceremony or different meditations or in the spiritual realm. Cause I would say I'm more spiritual than religious. Although I grew up in the Catholic Church for 12 years. I went to 12 years Catholic school, Christian, all of that to where now I see myself as a little, like, I would say even more like a Christian mystic kind of person. Like, I don't like labeling anything because I believe there's a lot of truth in a lot of different places.
Right.
But, when I went through a divorce, absolutely. I mean, we went to court back and forth. We battled. Like it was my family couldn't support me. They turned their back on me, right? They couldn't support my divorce. One of my siblings couldn't support my divorce. My ex-in-laws, of course I was because I wanted out, I had all kinds of things said about me. And so it's easy to get caught in the victim role where you feel defensive, right? Like these people are out to hang you and crucify you. And you're just like, am I such a bad person? Like because I'm trying to live my truth. I'm sorry that my truth, like that it hurts you so bad. So yeah, I got into the victim. And then it wasn't until years later where I was like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that they turned their back on me. I'm so grateful that they didn't support me because had they not done that, and that's what I needed, right? I'm not here to say everybody should go turn their back on people. Like this was my story. My story is this is what I needed. I needed those people to abandon and betray me so that I can go out in the world and find my strength. True strength, not dependent or a crutch on somebody else, right? One of the reasons I'm here is to be self-empowered, right? Not to be a parasite. I don't want to be a parasite and I need to siphon energy off you and you and you. And that's what I was shown. Even in high conflict situations, that energy exchange it's like a generator. You're a generator and you're siphoning energy off this high conflict person, right? Even in the
Yeah.
toxic exchange, it's still feeding you something,
Emotional
right?
vampires. That's at least
Emotional
that's how I
vampire.
like, right. That's exactly
Yeah.
how I look at it, right? I've heard
My
that
mind
thing
sees it
come
as a
up with that.
generator.
Right. Right.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
mind sees it as, "Oh, I'm trying to generate power externally through this shitty experience." Okay, well, if I'm doing that, then how can I be my own self generator? Right? Being a self generator means I take full responsibility for everything that happens, everything. Now I have the power to create the life that I want. When you're a victim, everyone else has the power to create your life. So now you're living
Right.
somebody else's life, right? But when
Right.
you're your own self-generator and learning how to stop siphoning off even toxic exchanges, even when you're like, you know how many years I stayed in that talking about my divorce with certain people that continue to breathe life into this
Right.
conversation. Let's keep
Right.
talking
Telling
about
your
this was our
story.
connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is why I stopped divorce only, specifically divorce coaching, because I was shown that it's not that I don't want to talk about my divorce because it was a big wake up
Well, it's a
call for
big
me,
part of
right?
your life.
It's,
However,
it's a
but it
part of
doesn't
my story.
define your life anymore.
It's not the only part of my life, and it's
Right.
not where I want to
Exactly.
stay stuck, right? But
Right.
we could stay stuck in these conversations, and then your life only becomes about that. So absolutely taking responsibility, and people get so triggered when you say this to them, because when I coach people, and I love triggering people in this, because when you get triggered, you have to go inside and ask yourself, why? Why does what I say to you trigger you? There's some part inside of you that's believing something about this to be true, maybe. And you
Right.
get to go and investigate. Why? Because if I said something that didn't ring true to you, you would just be like, whatever.
Whatever. Right.
I don't roll off the sleeve, right? But I said something that grabbed your attention, and it's these triggers that we need. We need these triggers, these high conflict people. Those people are the best teachers you could ever have. Forget
Yeah.
graduate school. Those
Right.
people are master people. They signed up. They signed
Yeah.
up to wake your ass up, right? How would I,
Yeah.
let's say my ex, he signed up to be that character in my life. Why? To help me wake up to my power. And let me tell you, without going into the whole story, because that's a whole nother side note.
Well, we
The
got to save
minute
that for your second book.
Yeah, no. I'm not going to go into the whole story, but I will say this because I think it's very powerful. When people take their power back, this is what it looks like. I had a dream. When I took my power back, a situation happened, right, in real time. After the situation happened, I had a dream. And the dream was that my ex, in the dream, there's two dreams in the same night. One was of a newborn baby, right? New beginnings. Nothing is literal. It's not
Right.
literal. Wasn't about to have a baby. So a
You're like,
newborn
been there, done
baby.
that, got the t-shirt.
We're done with we're done with that. And then the second dream in the same night was that my ex handed me a bag of soccer jerseys. And he said, here you go. And I was like, what the hell does that
Soccer
mean?
jerseys. Yeah.
Soccer jerseys. He's no longer my coach and my teacher. It's on you now. I'm done. Our karmic
Wow.
connection, that karmic teacher that he signed up to be, right? In the spirit world, not like this whole experience is not just a literal. There's a spiritual component to our lives, right? In the spirit world, he signed up to be this teacher. He loved me so much that he decided to play this character in
Right.
Marisa's life. A very important character, because without that, without what he did, without signing up for that painful experience, Marisa would not wake up to her power. And when I got that, when I learned that, our contract was done, right? We're done. You
Right.
got it. You graduated, Marisa. Go on now. Now that connection is broken. And guess how beautiful that is? I don't have
Right.
to dump that story on my kid's lap,
Yeah.
right? It
Exactly.
stops
Yeah.
here. It stops with me, right? In the spirit world, we can say you alchemize that. You alchemize that. You turn that shit into gold, right? And beautiful. You got the lesson. And now
Right.
we can move on. Now I can reintegrate that part of me that he was just holding, that part of me. And now I can call that back home to myself. Thank you for that lesson. And believe me, it took many years, because there's many years where I wish he was not here anymore.
Right.
Right.
And,
Many
and
years
that,
where I'd be like,
and that's true for people who are in recovery too, like the Al-Anon side, the dry side of the bottle. I mean, there's many times, and then even on the wet side, it's like, those feelings and thoughts do come through. It's like, man, I just wish you were gone, man. Well, it's like, why can't you disappear?
my
Not
life
that
would
we're
be easier.
right. It's like, not that we're advocating to hurt somebody. That's not what
No,
I'm saying.
no.
It's just like, why can't you just be gone?
Right.
Right? Why are
You
you still
believe
lingering?
your life
Why
would
is
be
that?
easier if they just weren't in your life. But here's the
Right.
reality of it. It's going to just show up somewhere else.
Right.
It's
Well, I
so
repeated
people,
patterns.
yeah,
That's what the book is all about.
yeah. And so when you see, and I call that the hamster wheel. So the hamster wheel is
Right.
when you keep spinning with the same
Right.
experiences over and over and over again, and then you need it. You need the hamster wheel because you're like, oh shit, this is a pattern. How do I do that? I have to disrupt this pattern. I have to take myself out of the hamster wheel. And if those people want to stay in the hamster wheel, that's totally fine. I'm not here to tell anyone else what to do. I need to remove myself and disrupt that. So you need the experience to happen over and over again for you to be like, shit, I already lived this. Like, why does this keep showing up? So you can't outrun yourself. You can't move to another country, another
Well,
city, another. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. People want to outrun themselves and not realizing it goes wherever you go.
in recovery, we call that a geographic. It's like, oh shit, I'm fucking up in LA or whatever. It's like, yeah, maybe if I move to Seattle, guess what? I'm still gonna find the drugs. I'm still gonna find the alcohol. I'm still gonna find the
Teachers
hookers,
are
whatever
still
it
gonna
is,
find the
right?
teachers. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is, until you actually take, that's the thing. You touched on something that reminded me about, being able to be self-supporting. There's a seven tradition that we have that if whatever, plug in the recovery group, right? It's like, but every Al-Anon or every meeting has to be self-supporting through its own contribution. Now, the obvious in the most literal sense of that is basically that we have to keep ourselves self-supporting, meaning that, we got to keep the lights on, so we give a little donation. But the spiritual essence behind that is being able to stand on your own 2 feet, be self-supporting through your own contributions. That tradition probably was the staple, especially I leaned on that tradition even when I wasn't in recovery and when I was even going, because I had been in and out of recovery for 30 years. So I picked up a few lessons. And after being disconnected from the two families, it was like, all right, it's either sink or swim.
Mm.
And I think that's what happens when you hit a bottom, and it doesn't have to be like a physical bottom. Like I've said in my meetings that AA got me physically healthy, ACA got me psychologically healthy, and Al-Anon got me spiritually healthy. I needed all three of those programs to take them
Yeah.
from different angles to get me. And it was up to me. Like you said, your own contribution, your own self-generating generator, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
and so you really touched on that, and that really hit home, and I had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to do is trying to like with the podcast in general, is I'm just trying to like bring people in and say, like, there's really no wrong way to get to whatever your journey is going to be. It's like, it's going to be. But I think what the common thread is the accountability. You
Yeah.
have to take accountability.
Accountability. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to take accountability, and you
Yeah.
have to be responsible. It's all about the asshole in the mirror. So
If you don't have the power to change anything. And that's a huge component, and I know people will struggle with that. But if you don't do that, then you will never have the power to change your life. And it will always be up to somebody else, right? And so
right.
regardless if and I'm not here to condone any shitty situations that people are going through. I mean, people are going through real stuff,
Oh
abuse.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
domestic abuse, like they're going, I'm not saying that this stuff is not happening. Absolutely. Number one is get safe, right? Get safe.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. No,
So
I
so,
get that for
people
sure.
hear that and like, they think I'm discounting that. Absolutely not. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is when you get to a place of safety, right? If you want to move on with your life and go and create the life that you want, instead of being stuck and entangled in this story, in this situation, you have
Right.
to take accountability and responsibility. What I always say to people is nobody put a gun to my head to marry my ex.
Right.
It wasn't a child's, situation where you have to marry them. And, I made choices.
Right.
I made
Exactly.
choices, right? And so this literally owning your choices. That's the book that
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
a co-author in. You made choices that led you to the life that you have. So if you made these choices that led to that experience, and I hate to say bad because there is no bad. Again, that's just a
Right.
judgment. I decided I wanted to live that experience. Maybe I needed that experience to know
Right.
what freedom is in a relationship. But how would I know what freedom was in a relationship had I not known the opposite of that, right? We live in a place of duality where there's opposites, right? It's not even
Mhm.
opposite, it's a continuation of the same spectrum. There's no good or bad. It's just, it's one spectrum, one shade of white all the way down to darkness, right? We
Right.
need darkness. We need that darkness. We're so scared of our darkness. But until we confront and love that darkness, those suppressed parts of ourselves, we cannot change anything.
That vaguely reminds me of something that I saw about embracing your dark side. because if you don't embrace the dark side, and I'm not saying like, your evilness or whatever, I'm just saying the
No.
things that we'd like to suppress, that
Right.
we just don't want to bring to the light. But until you take ownership of all of that, then, the change isn't going to take place. Man, you touched on something too, and I should have I'm making notes and stuff, and I'm like, damn it, I missed it. And then now I had a thought, and I was like, because like the subjects that you're touching on, I mean, again, it's just like, dude, like every bullet point is like just amazing. And it's like we're totally like on the same wavelength. And but you touched on something that I wanted, and I completely lost it. So it must have been a lie.
Well,
I
I
have
want
no
to say
idea.
something since we're on this conversation of darkness real quick that you mentioned something earlier, like, how do we do this? How do we stay in relationship with other people, meanwhile, not fixing their shit, right? Not
Right.
feeling responsible, right? And so this is what I was also shown in another situation, and I believe this was in ceremony once again, because I was somebody I have been shown that I was a sensitive little girl, very, very, very sensitive. And for various reasons did not feel safe in this world, in my body, in this world as a woman, so many things, right? And I was never sexually abused or anything like that. That was not an experience that I had. But for other reasons, I just never felt safe in this world, right? And
Mhm.
so in my world, I was so afraid of the dark, right? And then it was not until I confronted my own dark shadows. Let's call them shadows,
Mhm.
in the language of Carl Jung. And what are shadows? Shadows are feelings of comparison, of lack, of unworthiness, of, you know, when you don't have unconditional love. And then you just suppress these parts, right? I don't want to look at that. And so because of that, it was like not until I faced these shadows, when I faced my darkness, I was able to give that to other people. So now in relationship with other people, because I know it's not my job to fix them, right? It's not my responsibility, but it doesn't mean I can't be a witness of their darkness. It doesn't mean I can't be a container. And this is where people get messed up in, especially men, because men want to fix things, right? And
Oh yeah.
I'm not calling out men, but my husband
Mhm.
he likes to have a solution, right? And
Right.
women are not
Well, we're
women,
kind of wired that way, though. I
they're
mean,
wired, right? And we get it.
that's that's our survival mode, right? That's like, oh, we have a problem. We have a predator. It's like, we need to eliminate the predator or get
Right,
people to safety. We need to find
right.
those solutions. Yeah,
And women need
that's
to
that
be
lizard
clear
brain.
on the communication, right? We need to
Right.
be like, what is our intention? Hey, Vince, can you sit with me with this? I'm having these feelings right now. Like, okay, my taxes are due and I'm getting really triggered right now. Like I'm going into this mindset of scarcity. Can you sit with me and have this conversation? But I don't want you to fix it and I don't want you to offer me a solution. I just want you to sit with me so that I can feel safe in this conversation and I can share what's coming up for me. Okay? Can
Right.
you do that? Sure,
In all
Marisa.
honesty, well, I mean, I can communicate, but like my guts, it's like as soon as you said taxes, I'm all, I got an accountant for you.
You see? And then that's where we go into problems because I'm like, I don't want a fucking solution because now
Right.
you become my crutch.
Right.
Now,
Well,
now
and
I'm
see,
dependent. Now I got to go to Vince every time I got a problem with the
but
tap, but I
okay,
don't
so
want that.
that's my gut reaction, that because that's in my DNA.
Right.
However, here's the thing. There's a thing that we say in Al-Anon is you have to give people the dignity to fail. Meaning you have to step back and let them experience whatever it is they need to experience. Because
Right.
if
And
you're
so why are
constantly
you
picking up,
uncomfortable?
why am I
Why are
giving them
you
a fucking
uncomfortable with
crutch?
other
Right.
people's failure?
Right.
That's your shit, right? That's your
Right.
shadow.
That's my
Why
baggage.
am I
Right.
so
Exactly.
uncomfortable if this person fails? But because what is the definition I'm giving failure? Is
Right.
failure they're gonna die, they're gonna be homeless, or is failure feedback,
Right.
learning,
Exactly.
right? Like we talked about before. If you're
Well,
not
they're data
failing,
points. They're
you're
data
not
points. And
living, right?
well, we don't
Right.
know that, right? We
We
don't
don't know
know that.
that. We don't know, but this is where we have to be in conscious
Right.
dialogue, right? We have to be good communicators, and we're not. I get it. Language is very distorted because there's just too much going on, right? So we got to get clear with ourselves. When you can get clear with yourselves, now I can hold a space for you. So, like, hey, Vin, you want to come with me? I'm having trouble with this relationship, right? Oh my God, this situation's going on. Can I talk to you about it? Sure. Okay. Give me share your darkness. I'm not holding your darkness. I'm not
Right.
carrying it. I'm not drinking your poison. I'm not fixing it. I'm just witnessing you so I could mirror to you. hey, this is what I hear you saying. This is what I hear you saying. I'm only providing a mirror, a reflection. I'm not fixing. I'm not
Right.
entangling. I'm not holding your garbage. I'm not calling it garbage, but you know what I mean? People walk
I
around
yeah,
with other people's garbage.
constantly.
They don't know.
Well, I kind of in the book, I kind of talked about cleaning your garage, right? And you could either have a really messy garage or you could have a really sorted out. But the thing is the responsibility's on you,
Still
right?
on you.
You can
It's still on you.
I can't put my filthy garage on somebody else, right? I got to be able
Yeah.
to sort it and make sure that everything's compartmentalized. That's kind of a technical way of doing it, or else you end up with like I said in the book, you end up in the baby Jesus, looking for the baby Jesus in the box of dildos, and it's like that's not,
God, this is
you know,
such Vince fashion. I freaking love it, man. I love these one-liners. I swear to God. I just recorded a podcast about this conversation. I literally just did it on Friday. It's about other people because people, we're so codependent on other people. Like we want to like connect via trauma, right? Trauma bonding. And we want to projectile vomit all our crap on these people and be like, here you go.
right.
Can you? And then these people don't know how to disassociate from that. So they walk around carrying other people's garbage. And where does that energy go? On your back, on your neck, on your chest. Why do I feel so anxious? It's not even your shit, but you're carrying this, right? This is what
Right.
I was doing. And so I had to learn how to not carry what isn't mine. That's what came in 2012.
Well, and I think kind of boundaries comes into that because like, I never had any boundaries. And the thing is like what I learned at least in program or in recovery is that the boundaries aren't for other people. Boundaries are for me. And I mentioned this in another podcast. I think I did it in both with both Carmela and Chris in my previous episodes. I talk about boundaries being like the baby bumpers in a bowling alley, right?
Mm,
It's like, when those you got the little kids bowling and they put up those little baby bumpers to keep the ball from going into the gutter. Well, it's like I'm the ball and I need those boundaries, those baby bumpers to keep me from going off the edge because
yeah,
I was there. Right. And it's like, so when I tell people no, right, I'm not telling you no because you can't do it. If that's what you want to do,
right,
but by all means, go do it. I'm telling you no because I don't want to participate in that insanity because I know where this road goes,
right.
and it's like, and I do admittedly, like, I mean, because I am kind of harsh. I mean, I did grow up with my dad, so, but, and no shade on my dad, it's like, but
We still love your dad. Yeah.
right, exactly. But the thing is like I grew up kind of hard. So the thing is like I know what going off the deep. So when I say no, yeah, maybe I might have a little bit of a edge to it, a little bit of a chisel, but it's not because I'm telling you no. I'm telling
Right.
because it's like if I go down that road, I know where this is going to go. It's either going to
Yeah.
get me into a fucking fight, it's going to get me drunk, it's going to get me fucking, like laid with the wrong people or
Yeah.
whatever the fuck that addiction is, right? And it's like I just don't want to participate in that.
And that no is for you. It's how you
Right.
love yourself, right? But the other people sees that because the other person doesn't hear it as they don't see a separation between you and other. They think like in relationship, people think you shouldn't have boundaries in relationship, right?
Right, exactly, right,
Because they think that's a wall
right,
between you and them. And that's not what a boundary is, right? A boundary doesn't mean not connecting heart to heart and letting that person in. A boundary means this is how I love myself and I don't choose to partake in this situation, but you have the freedom to do what you want to do. Like, cause you have your own autonomy. So you go do what you want to do, but you can't worry. So many years I didn't have boundaries because I didn't want to hurt that person. What are they going to think? So I would hurt myself
right,
process of
exactly,
trying to save this person.
right.
Right? So I don't wanna hurt them, but I'd much rather do it to myself, to the point
W
where you're like it's an outward in relationship instead of inward out.
Yeah, we use the analogy of, like, being in a plane, and it's like when when the, stews or the flight attendants tell you, "Yeah, you need to put your mask on first and then the other person. You need to take care of your own shit first before you think that you could rescue somebody else," right?
Yeah,
It's like, how
yeah.
the fuck can I give something that I don't have myself, right?
Right, right.
And that's kind of those principles, and this is what it is that I mean, this is why I think I really wrote the book. It wasn't well, there was a couple reasons why I put what I put in the book. It was because number one, I needed to dump my shit. This started on the fourth step, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And I just said, I got to get this out there. And then secondly, it's like, now that I have this, it's like, let me share this story with people, and
Mhm.
maybe, just maybe, it'll resonate with somebody. Because there's like two people. I found out that there's like two people that read my book. They're the ones
Mhm.
that get to all the way through it and love it and can relate to it. And it's like, wow, man, that's really insightful. And then the ones that get to about chapter 3 and they're like, fuck this guy, he's an asshole.
Interesting. And even that is medicine. Like, honestly,
Right?
that is
It's
medicine,
like they
because
get really
if that
triggered.
triggered, right. And you weren't here to be liked. You're here to tell your story. And if that triggers somebody else, if my story triggers somebody else because I asked for a divorce, how dare you? And I have
Right.
gotten backlash for certain things, and a lot of my own family, right? If
Right.
that triggers you, that's for you to go and work through. Like, it's
Yeah.
not
You need to
my
figure it
response.
out.
It's
Yeah.
not my, I stayed in a marriage because I didn't want to hurt that other person. It's like, you get to a point where it's like, I you have to be responsible for how my truth, how you're affected by that, how you receive that. How you receive that is your responsibility. I can't help you with that. I could only be honest and speak my truth. And if we walked around how everybody else is going to put this through their own filtration, we would be insane. Everybody has their own filtration based on their own trauma, beliefs, values, whatever, right? Upbringing. But and that could be distorted through their own lens, right? So they're not looking at it through your lens. They're reading
Right.
that through their filter,
Right.
right? And so it's insanity to try to walk around doing that. All we can do is speak our truth, and hopefully, and I know your book inspired me. Like, it really did, just
I
hearing,
appreciate that.
and especially because I know you and I know your upbringing, and I'm just like, oh man, like, I was just rooting for you the whole way. And I was just like seeing a lot of myself, and not that we have the same story, we don't have the same story, but seeing a lot of your lessons in a different package, right? A lot of the same lessons, it just was wrapped differently. But nevertheless, the core of the lesson, it just rang very true to me. And I was like, hell yeah, like, I'm
It's like
so grateful.
the experiences were different, but the feelings are the same, right? It's like how humans manifest their feelings and how they deal with them, right?
Absolutely.
And not having that guidance to get through it. So when you see somebody like, holy shit, they got kicked in the teeth, and it's like, fuck, I feel that way, and it's like, that's not a good feeling. And knowing that we're not alone. I mean, there's so much separation, you
So
know,
much. Yeah.
today, and it's like, you know what? It's like every single one of us, doesn't matter where you're coming from, has some sort of level of trauma that we're just not dealing with.
Yeah.
Oh, it was about the responsibility. I wanted to get back a little bit on that one, and taking responsibility. Man, I was almost there and I fucking lost it again. God damn it.
Why does this not want to come through?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, because it's so profound, and it's probably because somebody else said it, and I'm gonna try to take credit for it, right?
It's
That's
okay.
probably what it is. It's all right. We'll
Yeah.
get to it. But let's get back to the family thing, right?
Yeah.
So, like, both you and I were separated from family because of circumstances and because of, familial beliefs and all that stuff. I developed a virtual family, which
Mhm.
or in Al-Anon refer to it as our chosen family. Because we all, again, there's a lot of different people from all walks of life, right? Orange, yellow, black, whatever, you know, all different peoples, all different lifestyles, all different. And we all come to the same place. And with all of those identity differences, we all have the same story, right? Or the same feelings, right? Different experiences and the same feelings.
Yeah.
And man, I remember sharing, and I'll share this. I was in a meeting, and I was feeling pretty tore up. And I'm even getting a little emo right now just thinking
Mm.
about it. Just talking about, you know, the move from San Diego, from Orange County to San Diego, and then San Diego to Sacramento, and realizing how many families that I had lost at that point in time. And I was
Mhm.
sharing about this in the meeting. And at the very end, one of the people, and I'm not going to blow his identity because it is Al-Anon, right?
Mm.
Anonymous.
Mm.
But he did say something. He's like, I'm a little pissed at you. And we're not supposed to crosstalk. But he said it, and it brought me to tears. And like I said, I'm getting emo. He's like, we're your fucking family.
Mm. Mm.
Shit, I'm getting fucking emo. Hold on. We got
No,
to pause the
that
recording.
that's awesome. No, we're not pausing that, because God, I relate to that. I relate to that. You know, I
It's
relate to that. Do you I don't remember how much in this book I actually shared about that because I've written about this on various blogs and on my website, but on that dark night, I had nobody. The only person that I trusted was Google. I literally there wasn't anyone that was understanding. And I'm not here blaming anybody. They just
they
couldn't
just didn't
get it,
have
right?
they
Because
couldn't
on the
wrap their head
outside,
around
it's
it.
like,
Yeah.
what the hell are you talking? Like, are you insane? You lost
Yeah.
your shit, right? And so I had Google. That's why I had Google. And this saved me. Like so mind you, before that, I had zero level of self-awareness, self-care. That was not even a conversation. Self-care, boundaries, self-love. What the hell? I
What
don't know
is
what.
that, right?
Like that's a foreign conversation. This is 2012 for me. Now people are talking about it, right? But back then, no, 2012, not really. So I literally on that night had this intuitive push to open my laptop, and I went in. I typed in these exact words. How did I get here? How like Google was gonna fucking tell me how did I get here? That's who I thought my family was, Google. So when you say
Right?
that, I know what that means to be like, fuck, I don't like I can't go to my parents and be like, how did I get here? They would be like,
Right.
I don't can't even entertain this, right? So a book popped up by Barbara DeAngelis, How Did I Get Here? And it was just like, I need this book. I was not an avid reader. I did not read books. Like that wasn't even a conversation, but something in me was like, you're gonna get this book. And I devoured this book. And it was like, she became my friend. She became my family because how do you disrupt the monotony? Because
Right.
you know what you're doing right now, you're a mentor in your family. You're the mentor we needed that we didn't have. I'm the mentor that I needed that I didn't have. I didn't have women empowered women. Who the hell is that? I had to
Right.
become that, right? You had to
Yeah.
become that. You are
Right.
the map now.
The
You are
virtuous
the
human
light.
being that I want to be. Right. Exactly.
You
Right.
were what you needed. And so, I had to create a digital family, digital mentors until I could change the dynamic in my life. So how do you do that? How do you attract people based on where you're at, right? If you're living in this
Right.
bubble and these are the relationships you're attracting, unconscious, right? Unevolved. And I'm, again, not a judgment, but these are not the conversations. I wanted to change the conversation. How do I change? I need to reach out, right? And I will do it. And literally, I would be on my phone. There was people that I would listen to because people might be asking, well, how the hell do I do this? Right. My family, they don't get it. Yeah.
Right.
You there's plenty of YouTubes. I went on Ralph Smart was another guy that I followed. And it was just like, it wasn't even about the message. It was the frequency of these conversations, right? It wasn't bitching, complaining. I wasn't Googling how to heal from my narcissistic husband. I'm not saying he's a narcissist, but you know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
what
No,
we
no, I got
do.
you.
We
Yeah.
stay
Right.
in the problem, right? We stay in the problem instead of, okay, how do I evolve out of this conversation? So those
Right.
people become your family until they're your support and just because they're your soul family, right? They are in your life for a reason. There's no accident. And until you can start inviting other people to support you and you can start changing that. When you start changing that within you, don't think that you can't change your family. You absolutely can. Because they're going to
Right.
be like, hey, Vince, why do you look so great? Like, you're so freaking happy. Like, look at you creating all these things. Like, what are you doing? Like, tell me, can you?
What's
And then
different
that's
about
where
you?
you
Yeah.
change the dynamic, right? Not because you're chasing anyone or you need to fix somebody, but
No.
because you're just being who you are. And that light, right? Remember the lighthouse. Now you
Right.
become the lighthouse who doesn't leak, who doesn't chase, who doesn't fix, who attracts. Oh, what is that person doing? Right? You become the lighthouse. And this is where you stop leaking out energy. And this is what I was shown in ceremony is you have more power to affect everybody around you if you just emanate that light within. Because think about it. When you say the word chase, are you exhausting energy versus being in your own body in the light? The lighthouse doesn't move. It's in the body, right? It's
Right.
in vessel. Your body's the lighthouse.
Well, it's at the most solid part of the point, right? To guide people in, and you can't guide people in if you're completely what's that? Why I can't
Even
think of the word.
in the
When you're
dark.
deluded, right? When you're completely deluded. And that's exactly what like my addictions and my behavior and my bad choices were doing was completely diluting that
Yeah.
that 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 light that I had in me, so to speak,
Yeah.
right?
So
And
your people though in Al-Anon, or was it Al-Anon, that the guy that said that?
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah,
That was your family that held you up until you learned how to do that on your own, right? They mirrored or modeled or reflected this way of being until you believed it, until you ate it, drank it, embodied it. They held that mirror for you until you got to witness your strength and yourself. So what they were showing you was you, yourself, your truth. You just forgot, right?
right,
You just had all this programming that you needed to delete that was getting in the way of your eyesight, of the
exactly,
truth,
yeah,
right? And so this is what we do in relationship. This is how we help heal each other. This is how we help heal each other home, is like if we can embody and model that and be a safe container for darkness, right? Don't shrink, don't judge, don't shame other people's darkness, because what if that is what is happening to you, then you need to be like, I'm doing this to myself, right? There's dark parts of me that I'm suppressing that still need to be loved, brought to the light, whatever language you want to say. And
right,
if I'm shrinking, because I notice myself when people would have these dark conversations, like, oh shit, I'm so fucking uncomfortable with this. Like, I don't know, am I supposed to say something, fix something? It's like, no, just be there with them. Just
right,
hold them in your energy, contain them, right? How beautiful is it to offer that to somebody? Someone who's just like really like, I'm just going through some shit right now, and you're just there. You're just there. You're just a lighthouse, right?
right.
Guiding them back home to themselves, not fixing, but allowing them to come to their own realization.
Well, to listen, right? I think that's probably the biggest part of what's going on today. We talked about separation from a societal perspective, and you and I, can relate to that because, I mean, we are one big happy family. Believe well, one big dysfunctional, like the human race is one big dysfunctional family, right? But we're constantly separating ourselves. But the thing is like, and we're constantly talking, just talking, talking, talking. We don't take a minute to listen, right?
Mm,
And we don't take a minute to relate to each other. And I think
yeah.
that's, and that's a huge, and no matter how big the family or how small the family, we're always talking at each other. We're always like waiting to respond, right?
Mm,
Or, to somebody else, right? It's like, we're listening to
yeah.
respond. We're not listening to just like, you know what? Let them be in their shit right now. Maybe that's where
Mm,
they need to be, you know?
right.
And
It's
then let me just
because
shut
our
the fuck
trauma
up,
gets in the way. Yeah, yeah.
right?
Do you look at other people in relationship as, if you have a curious mind and you just want to be in relation with other people and be like, okay, like what can, like, listening to their story could teach you something about yourself, right? What can they reflect? Because whatever they're sharing is there is no separation. What they're sharing is a part of you. You just bought the distortion that they're separate, right? And if you were to ever work with plant medicine, not only would you know there is no separation, but you would embody that to the point of, holy shit, I'm so delusional. There is no other. There is only you. There is only you. So all these people walking around are only you. And that might sound crazy to somebody, right? Quantum physics is literally proving this, but
Right.
we're barely catching
Right.
up to what people already
Well,
knew.
Joe Rogan talks a lot about this. I'm not going to make it about his podcast, but Joe Rogan talks about like, investigating different parts of, the world. And like,
Mm.
because our minds can't really wrap our head around those difficult concepts, right? It's like when you say if I choose to, and it's like, you know what, I'm probably going to choose not to, only because of like, I would take that to the next level.
You know
It's like,
yourself?
wow. Because if this feels good like this, oh man, after before my surgery, they kind of I think they give you like a little bit of fentanyl,
Mhm.
like the medical grade, not the
Yeah.
stuff off the street,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but they give you fentanyl to kind of like loosen you up a little bit, and it's like, and I wasn't really nervous before going into my shoulder surgery, but man, when they put that shit in me before they knocked me out, I was like, fuck, this feels good. Right. And so I
Uh,
was just like, I need to stay away from this shit. Right.
yeah, yeah.
And so,
I
yeah.
tell and
So it's
that's not the only route, right? There's so many routes to get to
right.
the same destination. It's whatever route you choose. Yeah.
Exactly. So when we're talking about drug, just because of who I am, it's like I don't actively identify as in Alcoholics Anonymous anymore. I'm more on the Al-Anon side. However, I am very, 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 very selective on when I'm going to partake and have any type of fun. And a lot of that, I mean, I'm gonna get a lot of shit from the community, but this is, I think, what the difference between sobriety and is that when I dumped all of my shit and I put it all in the book, I mean, literally, like, the obsession to smoke, the obsession for, making bad choices. I'm just
See, there's a judgment. That judgment keeps coming up.
well, I
You
mean,
just made
hey,
choices. You just made choices.
progress, not perfection. I mean, if I was to, yeah, I just don't want to insult the crowd, but I mean, like I said, I hoard myself out quite a bit, right? So, those questions, and so with all that being said, it's like, when I got through the book and got through my 4 step, and then finally, and then started living the 12 steps and getting this message out to people, it's like it was almost as if, like you'd said, God had removed something from you. That's exactly what I felt, was like, I don't
Mm,
have that need to go out and get fucked up,
mhm,
right? It's like I did the other day with my buddy, and it was because of because of the situation and whatever, but I own that choice. I own that
mhm.
decision. Do I feel like I'm gonna go out and get fucking hammered and, fall back again? It just depends on who you are and, where you are at in your journey. But for me, myself, it's like I don't have the desire to get fucking hammered all the time, like
Yeah,
I did. I don't have like that need to fucking drown my shit, and hide it with, some sort of dopamine hit.
yeah. I
But
mean, what you're saying is no different than somebody who binge eats who wants to check out, right? They want a quick dopamine hit because they want to check out, and that's an acceptable way, right? Nobody's
right,
going to talk shit about that person that goes and binge eats after a stressful day, right?
exactly.
It's just a more acceptable form, but nevertheless, it's still, I hate to judge one thing as different or better than the other. They're both mechanisms, or shopping or gossiping or whatever. All of it is a way to check out quickly of the
Yeah.
body. And as you reattach, as you reconnect, the body, if you cannot get to a place of healing and wholeness without being in the body and having that relationship with the body and reconnecting to the body and loving the body. That's the vessel. That's the
Right.
vessel, right? And that's the one thing where you keep trying to outrun is the
Well,
body.
getting back to what I was saying about, I think the realization of also took place is because I went back to AA before I jumped into Al-Anon, because it was something that had saved me 30 years before, right? It got me
Mm,
into some. So when I went back into AA this last time around 3 or 4 years ago, I ended up getting a sponsor and we started talking. And again, the program is a program of honesty. You have to be
mhm,
honest, right? And so my sponsor said, he kind of put an ultimatum on me. And I'm not shitting all over AA. I love the 12 steps in recovery. I'm not casting shade. What I'm saying is what woke me up, and what I saw that was different was that when he asked me to stop drinking for 30 days,
mm,
or else he wouldn't be able to sponsor me. I mean, I understand what his position was, and it wasn't hard to not drink for 30 days. It was actually pretty easy, but as time went on and I got closer to that 30-day mark, I started getting more and more and more and more pissed. And I kept
mm,
reaching out to God and I said, God, it's like, when you wake up in the morning, it's like every day I got more pissed. And I thought, well, maybe I'm, in an alcoholic cloud, and I'm getting angry and, because, it's like I need my fix or whatever the case may be. And then finally it was just like around day 30, day 31, the next day, somewhere around there, I fired him. And the reason why I fired him was because with the way I felt, and this is why I went into Al-Anon, and this is how I realized that I was codependent, was because of the fact that I was asking for help, but there was strings attached,
mm, mhm,
right? And it's like I couldn't be honest and tell this guy that I was never gonna drink, right?
mm,
Or touch alcohol. And I felt like I had to bend the knee and I had to acquiesce and I had to do another fucking song and dance, to make somebody else feel better about themselves and yet give up something about myself, which is
mm,
honesty. You know what
mm.
I'm saying? And
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
for me, it was just kind of like, so when I went, so when I fired when I fired my sponsor from AA, I went to the other side and I went to Al-Anon, and then I started working on like, why do I have the need to change myself so that somebody else can feel better about themselves?
That was the lesson underneath it all.
Right, exactly. And so when I started to realize that, I was like, oh, maybe I need to start looking and finding, again, coming back full
Yeah.
circle to what we talked
Yeah.
about in the beginning. I was like, maybe I really need to start looking at who I am as a human being. I mean, and then when I
Mm.
started to analyze my drinking through my fourth step in Al-Anon, I started to realize that, yeah, alcohol was fun. And yeah, I abused the shit out of it. But alcohol was also the tool that made me social. Cigarettes made me social, made me accepted into groups of people, right? The reason why I bought my fucking ex-girlfriend's house is because I wanted to be accepted by somebody else,
Yeah.
right? I was putting all of these poisons and doing all of this shit so that I could fit into a society that didn't give a fuck about me.
Yeah. I mean,
And I
these
mean,
so
that's pretty
everything
hard.
is
That's pretty
yeah.
harsh. I sold my soul, is basically
Yeah.
what I'm saying,
They're
right?
all the external things, right? This is what the mind believes. They're all you everything you said is all these external factors,
Right.
which this is where we have to come back inside ourselves, right? It sort of just sounds like a checklist. It sort of sounds like the checklist is no different,
This
right? If
is
I
what
do
I have
all
to
these
do
things,
to
I'm going to be
be
acceptable, right?
accepted. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
this
Right.
is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's packaged differently. It's the same conversation. So then I hate judging things because it's like that's the toll you had. Let's say my grandfather, he was an alcoholic, right?
Right.
I mean, he just decided to drink every day. My mom doesn't want to admit that he was an alcoholic, but he was an alcoholic. And then I actually sat in meditation one time and I'm like, why is my family the way they are? Like,
Mhm.
why are we like this? Like, I need an answer. And what came through was war, the product of war. And I was like, shit, because I know nothing about
They
that.
were all born in the face. My dad was in the
Yeah, so, like,
40s,
go back,
right?
right? Go back. My grandfather, him, was in the war. He was in there for 8 years, captured by the Americans. Didn't see his son till his son was 8 years old. Why do you think he came back and drank? What did he have a coach or a counselor? No,
Right.
absolutely. Like, so it was just like, "Oh, shit. Okay." It's not that you're excusing anything, right? It's not mine to excuse. He doesn't need my, forgiveness. I just
Yeah.
wanted understanding of why are we that way? You don't think that war, that initial rupture
Right.
trickled down to me? Of course it did.
We could go. So my uncle, it's not my Uncle Sonny, but my ex-wife had an uncle. We called him Uncle Sonny. That's not his real name. That was just his nickname. But he had this thing that he talked about was called genetic continuity, right?
Mhm.
And essentially what happens is all the traumas and all of the things that your family felt before you were born was passed down in your DNA, right? And that was
100%.
one of,
Yeah.
yeah. And so you get what I'm saying. So the
I
thing is,
viscerally get what you're saying.
right, you
Viscerally.
told
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So everything that my dad found, my familial and from my mom and dad's side, that DNA that's hardwired, that trauma, the PTSD, those are the instincts that, our DNA will hold, right? And passes it down. So when you said it's like, why is my family the way it is? It's because of these, instinctual things that were genetically programmed through trauma, through the events that had taken place. So
Yeah.
yeah, when you touch on that, it's like, and I don't
So
know if
I didn't need
anybody,
to
I
be
don't know if
in
Joe,
war.
right,
I didn't need to be in war. I viscerally have it in my cells, a
right,
memory. So I don't need to be there to understand, holy shit, what they went through. I viscerally saw it so it's embodied, right? This is how I need to learn. Marisa,
right,
to learn. I'm not going to learn out of a book. It's just not going to happen. Yes, that's great information, but I'm talking about wisdom is what I'm seeking.
right,
So, I made a conscious agreement back in college when I originally went that I'm not going to help anyone out of a book. I need life experience. And I didn't know I made this contract with myself until decades later. I was like, oh shit, I really asked for all this stuff, right?
right,
This is where you take ownership. You asked on some unconscious level, every experience you've had, you've asked for it. I know that
right.
sounds really shitty to some people, but
Well,
it is true.
but okay, so yeah, you say that we asked for it. The thing is like bad shit happens, and there's some things that happen to us when we're young that we have no control, that is not our fault.
It's not
right?
our fault. Absolutely has
Right.
nothing to do with fault because we're not
Has nothing.
blaming.
Correct.
Right.
However, there are things that we do after, we get to that age of adulthood that we have to do to take responsibility for those feelings and those things that happen. I'm not saying that it's your fault that, somebody forced booze down your throat, or, if there was anything, sexually that happened and that type of thing. What I'm
Right.
saying is that what we do after that to repair that trauma is our responsibility.
Absolutely. It's our responsibility. And it's you have to this is where you have to go inside, and we need to know where our family came from. We need to know, because some people want to just go on with their life and live unconscious, like who gives a shit what they went through? I
Right.
don't care. But on some level that has shaped you. On some level, right? Let's say I just asked you about, can you sit with me while cuz I'm triggered right now with my taxes this year. Is it about the taxes? No. It's about a scarcity mindset. Where does that come from? War? Shit,
Right.
they didn't have shit. They didn't have
Right.
food. They had to have
Yeah.
food helicoptered in. They had to have clothing helicoptered in. They had to conserve water. Why did my grandmother, when she moved to the United States, have tons of water bottles? We were in the United States. There was no war going on here, but
We
she
had a
still acted. Right, right. So it was like, yeah, we had a tap. Like, what do you, are you, you're still waiting for the war, but right, the war is
Yeah.
inside us. The war,
Right.
so that because we greed and scarcity and fear and lack, that comes from that, right? And so then if I have to be like, why am I getting triggered about my taxes? It's not about the taxes. That experience is trying to show you something inside that you're not at peace with, right?
Yeah.
The war is in you. You're not at peace with that. So every time the taxes come, boom, trigger. Oh, okay. I see you. I see you. This isn't about the freaking taxes. Like, let's be
Yeah.
real. It's about my fear, my scarcity, right? My not being able to have enough, not being able to provide, maybe being on the street. Is that my reality? No. But it doesn't matter. My body thinks so. My body is waiting, right? My body
Right.
is waiting for the war to lose everything. So we grip on tight, right? We hold on to this shit. Oh, we
Yeah.
hoard it, right?
Well, because that's our safety mechanism. Coming back full circle to the top of the and now we're in it for 90 minutes, 95 minutes now. I'm telling you, we could go on for days. I mean, and
Ah,
this is every time, like every meeting that we've had coming to this point has always been an hour and a half to 2 hour conversations. So
all
it's like
right,
we could go on for days, which is awesome.
right?
I do want to be very conscious of your time. So let's just kind of get into some final thoughts in
Yeah.
regards to, like, if an individual needed, like for me, it's like I basically, I try to promote or try to suggest and try to say, hey, if you're having an issue, seek out a 12-step program, right? That's kind of like my go-to, right? If anybody, it's like if anybody wanted to go your direction, it's like what would be some of your recommendations?
I mean, I do coaching, so I'm all about it. I do coach clients. It depends on what their situation is. I don't coach clients that are trying to like fix their partner in a relationship. You
Who's your
know,
ideal client? That actually
so
brings up a good point. Who's your
so
ideal client?
my ideal client is somebody that wants to have a heal from within themselves, have a better relationship with themselves. A lot of people come to me because they have relationship problems, right? And they always come to me and they think they're going to vicariously fix their partner through our coaching, which is never going to happen, right? It always starts with you and then it flows
Right.
inward out. It's not outward in. So I can't help that person that's coming with the incentive of fixing their partner. Or help my partner? I can sit with you and the ideal client is people who are trying to work on some of these things we talked about, like how to have a better relationship with themselves. I'm not fixing anyone. I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm offering a safe container to express dark things, right? I could mirror back to you. I could reflect back to you what I'm hearing. And then we might revisit that little wounded child that still didn't get her needs met. And
Right.
we give her a voice, right? We give her a voice. We give her a platform to talk. We help her feel safe. These are for people that don't feel safe, men or women that just, they don't feel safe, but it's projecting out in their relationships, right? They think it's about the relationship, but it's not. It's about
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
It's always about us. When I went to get counseling in my divorce, it wasn't about my marriage. It was about me and how
Right.
I walked so far outside of myself and helping these people walk back towards themselves, how to have a better relationship with self.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. I think I've even said it. Everything begins and ends with the asshole in the mirror.
Right? We just have to call ourselves out. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. We just got to
Yeah.
take responsibility and all of that. And again, these are my Vinceisms. So if I offend anybody, go see your
I know.
therapist. Yeah. So
You could probably recommend one for them. No,
all right,
I absolutely love that your tone didn't get diminished in your healing process because it didn't get watered down is what I'm saying, and I absolutely love it. This
I
is why, like,
appreciate.
anyone who wants to read your book, highly suggest the audio version because I literally devoured it. I think in 2 days. I'm not even joking. I think I devoured your audio in 2 days, and I was just
I'm
like,
glad
"Oh
you
hell yeah!"
enjoyed it. That's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. So like I said, there's two people. They're the people who actually like read it and like get into it and really like are. And then by the third chapter, there's those people that get to. Yeah, it's like no, I can't
They
do
might
this.
come back to it. They might
Right.
come back to it.
So we've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
talking about my book a lot. What about your book? You brought it up, put it up again.
Yeah, owning your choices. So this came out in 2012, and so talk about, owning your shit, right? Taking accountability and
Now
responsibility.
this was a compilation of a bunch
Yeah,
of different stories from
8
some women who
women.
went through some crazy shit themselves, right?
I mean, I'm talking sex trafficking, I'm talking suicidal stuff, like a lot, like talk about women that can stay stuck in their victim story, and they would probably have every right to, considering what some of these women went through, right? Sex trafficked by their own family. So I get that these are difficult conversations, right? We're
We
not
need to
here to
have them
compare
though.
trauma, right? We need to have them.
All right.
Trauma's
Period.
trauma.
We
Trauma's
yeah,
trauma, and your trauma. I'm not here to compare my trauma to their trauma. It's just trauma. The body doesn't
right,
know any different. It's just
right.
trauma. But in this book, I talk. I mean, I have one chapter here, so
Mhm.
it touches a little bit on my story and what I went through, and to get to the other side of sort of divorce and a little bit of that divine experience. It doesn't. It's not enough to give a whole
Well,
picture,
we're
which
waiting for
is
your regular book.
yeah, that's coming out. Yeah, I'm in graduate school, so I went
Congratulations,
back.
by the way.
Yeah,
That's
thank you,
awesome.
thank you.
That's gonna take a lot of time, but you'll get
It
there.
is, it is. I absolutely love it because it's for psychology and consciousness and transformation. I got certified as a coach in 2017. So in the process of all this, I got certified. I started coaching. And then now I'm like, oh, I really want to go back to school because it's what I originally wanted to do. And then I diverted to the safe option, which was business when
Right.
when I got out of high school. So now I'm like, I really want to come back to because I got the experience I wanted and I'm sort of working. And I think people do that. You get the experience and then you start working your way backwards. You get the language and you get the foundation, right? You get the
Yeah.
foundation for that. So this is why coaching is limited for me. I can't like fully put it out there because this is like what I'm doing right now is very important to me. And
Absolutely.
I just launched my podcast. It's called When Voice Meets Spirit.
I was gonna get into that. It's like, how do people get a hold of you? How do they find you? How do they get a hold of your goods? That
Yeah,
sounded
I
bad.
mean, my goods. I have a Instagram page it's called 5 Seeds of Harmony.
5 C's of Harmony?
5 Seeds of Harmony, and they can go on there. They could go on my website, which is 5seedsofharmony.com, and those 5 Seeds of Harmony birthed out of the next day after the dark night. There's a whole story around that, which is a whole story in itself of why it's called. It's based on what I was shown during that download and what I've
Gotcha.
continued to embody. And that's basically what I'm teaching people is how to get back into harmony with themselves as I've embodied this roadmap for myself. You always have to walk the walk first. Like it starts with you. If I
Yeah.
can't do that for me, then how can I help other people do that? It's just,
That comes full circle to what we talked about earlier in the podcast. It was like, how could I give something if I don't have it myself?
I
And it's
can't.
like, it's impossible, right?
You
And it's
can't give
like,
something you don't have.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So they can go on, they can listen to When Voice Meets Spirit. I literally just launched it. It's been a minute. There's like I think 2 or 3 episodes. I have another one coming up. It's more of a labor of love of just sharing, story and stuff like that. I threw perfectionism out the window and just share. And that's what
Yeah.
I was actually shown is at the end of my journey, once I embody this sort of roadmap on the other side of that is service, and that's what we're here for, is to help other people.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
we've kind of reached the end of the podcast. I know that we could continue talking, so I'm gonna wait for you to invite me to your podcast.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely, absolutely.
you
Okay.
could drill me with all the questions that you wanna get into.
We will
Uh,
do that for sure.
that's awesome. Thank you so very much for taking the time today, and,
Thank you.
no,
Thank you.
congratulations again on your journey and finishing up your master's program.
Thank
That's gonna
you,
be
I
huge
appreciate
for
that.
sure.
Yeah, I'm
So,
excited, thanks. Thank
right
you.
on. Well, that's it. That's it for today. And then maybe what you could do later, I'll get a hold of you, and then you can actually send me like your links and stuff, and then
Okay.
I'll put
Yeah,
them in
yeah.
the show notes. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, I
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much. Cool, cool. Love you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, love you too.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.